Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man!
All right, episode 38 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Jeff at Evergood Merch in California. Let's go!
Okay, well, Monarch, of course, is one of our sponsors. We love this ink, and we're using it more and more even.
And he's handsome.
I think that's probably number two. Like number one is, does the ink work? Number two would be, is the guy that, is he handsome that you're buying it from? That's pretty important.
It's pretty important, yeah.
That's up there. Number three, it doesn't really matter after that. Like, it's just...
All right. What else do you need in this world?
Oh, maybe the mustache. Like, does he have a cool mustache?
That just sets it off. Speaking of cool mustaches.
Speaking of cool, the coolest.
Right. If nobody has a cooler mustache than Alex.
Right. But Alex, if you don't know, is with Easy Way, and Easy Way is the easiest way. Yeah. Enough said. Mm-hmm. Not really, because people don't know. That's all we
have to say.
Shouldn't we say a little more?
All right, go ahead.
If you need a press wash, or you need an ink degradant, or you need to reclaim screens, or
they don't have their hands in like a million other things. It's like their focus is reclaim.
Maybe
they're really, really good at making chemicals for your dip
screen printers. Yeah.
Screen printers.
Yeah, and then we have another sponsor, the F guy. Do it.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Frank.
There we go. We have Frank from GSF.
What does GSF stand for?
Graphic Screen Fashion.com. But Frank, go talk to him. If you're looking for a screen that's stretched way above 15 newtons, you know who to call. Frank. Yeah.
We love you, Frank. So, even though you don't love me.
That was so good. That's one of the best moments of my life, really. That my kid was born. It's one of the highlights of my life. And
broke my heart.
Yeah. Want to take a deep breath? Oh, should we have been recording this?
I'll fucking kill you. I'm going to literally reach through this fucking monitor and strangle you. Dude, no joke. When you just said, are we recording this? I had a mini heart attack. I looked up and I was like, oh.
Well, hey, is it my responsibility? It's not. Isn't it yours? Yeah,
no,
you're supposed to. Okay.
I can see it. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How's your Sunday?
Sunday's going well. It's nice and sunny here.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying.
Yeah. It's like I'm in flip flops, and if I wouldn't be doing this, I'd be in my shorts and hanging out in the backyard. It's like 70 degrees out and beautiful right now.
Oh, that's gross. 70 degrees. Sounds terrible.
Yep.
So tell us what's going on with you, man.
Not much. So currently, we are, I guess I could officially say it. I'm unemployed. So that's exciting.
Took the plunge.
By choice?
Not by choice, but it was definitely something I'd been thinking about for a while. So it was one of those things where it was like, I guess I was put in a good position that, the time had come for, my old shop to just go, hey, I think we need to not necessarily part ways, but COVID had just hit them so hard. And it was just hard for them to kind of keep me there and, keep them afloat, I think. And so it was just easier for me to kind of go out and do my own thing.
What was your role there?
So I was actually, so I worked for my family's print shop, which originally was a offset paper company. So they would print envelopes and flat sheets and kind of anything under the sun that dealt with paper. And so the way that I kind of got involved is I actually used to teach high school 12 years ago. And
don't brush over that. What were you teaching?
Actually, I was teaching technical theater. So set building, design, sound engineering, lighting design, stuff like that. So we had a couple classes a day and after school stuff that we could, really work with kids and, show them how to use tools and stuff like that and just kind of figure things out. And then, so during that, and so this kind of going backwards, but this is how I fell into screen printing really. So we always had the summers off. So I had 3 months off in the summer, kind of do whatever I want. And during those months, I'd have so much time on my hand that I got really bored. And the activities director at the school I was working at, he was ordering tons and tons of shirts from Custom Ink. And I went in one day and I was like, what is all this? What's this for? He's like, oh, we got tons of activities coming up, just getting ready for the next school year. And I'm like, how much are you spending on this stuff? And I don't remember the numbers, but I'm just like, it boggled my mind, the budget that they had for just apparel. And I was like, hey, what if I took this summer and figured out how to screen print and did it for you? And he goes, hey, I don't care who does it, just as long as it gets done. And so the long and the short of it, I learned a lot by trying to do that. I built my own first 4-color press. You probably have seen the plans online. It's about 10, 12 years ago, somewhere around there.
The wooden one?
The 2x4s. Yep. The wooden one with the lazy Susan, that, everything like that. And so that was a terrible mistake. And not understanding how the registration gates work on it and how 2x4s really are different sizes. And so it was it was god awful. And so figured out that I just needed to buy myself a little silver press, a 4-1 silver press with a flash I could just turn by my hand and just figure it out. And so ultimately that wound up taking up a bunch of my teaching time. So I was going into my uncle's shop where I had it all set up, his print shop, and I'd print until literally I had to drive to school to teach a class. And I was just figuring it out. And I was going back and forth for probably a good year and a half before things really started catching on. And then my uncle, he kind of approached me because he was seeing how much work I was doing. And he was like, hey, would you want to bring that into this business and just kind of, and being like,
make a screen printing division?
Yeah. Yeah. And so being 25 and not knowing much about business back then and, just kind of being scared to almost do anything really. I just graduated college and, stuff like that. I was just like, yeah, sure. And so I wound up doing that for a while and just kind of bouncing the two, still teaching, but also printing. And then printing just consumed my life. I mean, I wanted to learn everything I could, 10 years ago, how much information was out there between YouTube and forums.
We got to ask the question then, who did you learn from? Who was your go-to on YouTube?
It was Ryan. It was Ryan, man. It was the first stuff that popped up on the YouTube. And I'm not going to say I learned everything because I learned a lot from failing by trying to use one of those heat guns to cure all the shirts. I have a 200 run job and trying to cure with a heat gun, just not knowing, just investing, $1,000 into an initial setup versus like $150. Right. It was just such a crash course of learning, failing, sending shirts out that are under cured and them coming back and going, hey, you screwed up on these, and having to reprint. And then, just doing that whole trial by fire, really, because I literally had nobody, no friends, no anybody who knew what screen printing was. And it was a lot of, and not to mention, I used to collect screen printed posters too back in the day. And so that was kind of where like the brainchild of all this is like old gig posters and, you know, movie posters and stuff like that back in like 2010. Yeah. And so, I mean, that's where like I learned like how it worked on paper, and then learning how different it was to put it on a t-shirt after that was just, you know, it's pretty eye opening. So
anyway, you ended up starting a division at your uncle's place, and then that just grew. It just grew. Yeah. So he had his own set of clients. So universities and, you know, contract, he had his own contract printers that did the paper type stuff. And so once he was just like, hey, we can print t-shirts for you, then it just, I mean, literally it snowballed. Right. I mean, running 1,000-piece jobs, you know, 4-color jobs on a six color 2-station silver press, which we upgraded to. That was our second press, and just grinding day in and day out in a. You were flashing those still, or did you get flashing? No, I was flashing everything for almost 4 years. So you were flash curing. You weren't. I was flash curing. Yeah, I would. That's terrifying. It really was. It was oversized, beat up, old, oversized. It didn't even have a name on it. It was a gray flash unit, and I just you know, released the adhesive from the shirt, and I just kind of fan it to try and get some airflow in there, and then just I know that is actually like a shop hack, really. I figured that out early because I used to flash cure shirts too. Yeah. And if if you're stuck down, like you just said, and the shirt's flat and right touching the pallet, and you cure it, it takes way longer than if you pull it up off of it and you get that air pocket underneath that gets hot too, and you cure from the underside almost also. And so I would do the same thing when I cured with a flash. I'd pull it up first. Of course, you can scorch quicker. Absolutely, and we did all the time. And so we wound up, you know, we would buy like 10 of each size shirt overs, just to make sure that we would make count, because we were making so many mistakes at the beginning. We were costing ourselves so much money, but it was. Yeah, but the funny thing is that all the people we talk to that are like bigger shops now always look back at those times and they're like, I learned, it sucked at the time, obviously, but like you learn so much more by taking the like shit road than you would if you, like, say you went out and bought like a $2,000, you know, an $8,000 whatever kit with like a 6'4", small dryer, all this other stuff. You wouldn't have known, like you wouldn't have learned things as easy. You know what I mean? I can't say as easy, but like you get a lot more like, oh yeah, don't do that kind of thing. Absolutely. And you also appreciate the equipment when you get it too. Like when you finally have a dryer. 100%. 100%. We bought our first dryer we got was a used, what is that? Print-Tech. They make like a full-on kit. Like you get a 6-color that has, like, you know, you could store screens underneath it. And then I may be butchering the name, but we bought some small 18-inch wide it was maybe 3 feet long conveyor dryer. And that was a game changer for us. You know, we could print 150 shirts in a day, you know, and that was back probably in 2010 or so. And absolutely. Have you guys ever seen that press? Well, I guess it's a dryer for a press. I've always saw it and I was like, oh, it's a pretty cool idea, but I've never known a printer to have one. It's the one where it's got like the, whatever it is, manual on top. And then there's a dryer below it where like the belts are like a V kind of, and you drop it on right after you print and it comes out the other side. I think originally it was called like the Low Rider or something through Ryan. Yeah. That's where I originally saw it. I thought it was a great idea, but but I've never ever seen anybody with one. No, I never had either. I seen a guy who did some live show printing, and he had a conveyor dryer that had a screen press like welded to the top of his dryer. And then they just, 2 guys offload it from the back of the truck and they just ran it that way. But that's about it. Yeah. When I was printing out of my garage, I always wanted, because I was by myself a lot,
And so you put the shirt, when I finally got a dryer, I got a 36 wide, 11 foot long dryer. And the shirts would fall into a box, right? Well, I always thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if the shirt went down the dryer and then came back to me like a boomerang, you know?
Yep.
And then I could, because while I was printing or while I was flashing or whatever, waiting for a flash, I could then grab it off and then put it in a pile. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Maybe that's out there.
I've had those same thoughts too. I'm like, why hasn't somebody built this? Because that would make my life so much easier. And
well, they make those M&R dryers now that are like they kind of fall off the belt and fall on another belt and come back and then go on another belt and come out the end.
Yeah, because I think that's because they want it to be in the heat chamber for a very long time.
No, I know, right? And it's space saving, but I'm just saying it's technically the same thing. You could just have a conveyor underneath where it hits it and rolls back.
Dylan, can we make a dryer and call it the boomerang? We have maybe M&R or Ryan or whoever, Anatol.
Yeah. Right. Just make you the boomerang just for you.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I always thought like probably what like everybody does.
Because you're so old, it'll be called the boomer, and then it'll also say "ang" at the end.
Not a boomer. Don't put me up there. But sure. Yeah, let's whatever. But I thought it would be like, I'm sure you guys did too, or do still, you know, as you're printing or doing things, you always think of a better way. And you're like, oh, well, it would be cool if we had this machine or this piece of equipment or something, you know, that would come to mind. And however ridiculous sometimes it might be. Yeah. But
I forget what that is. It the Passport that M&R has? Is that the robot that takes it? Mm-hmm. When I was printing by myself, I was just like, oh my God, if they made a robot that just take these off for me, that would just be so. And then I saw it and I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking, you know? And then I was like, oh my God, that's probably
that makes me nervous though, that machine, because I look like at what point do you catch a mistake? I guess you catch it at the end of the dryer, you know, like 50 shirts later.
The thing with that though, is it's realistically for a guy or for a press that's running thousands and thousands of t-shirts where like the tack is the same, you know, you're printing a t-shirt and it makes sense to buy. So you're not being like, okay, on this press, we're always running 10,000 piece runs for Nike.
Makes sense.
And I have a press operator just running the press and I have a machine I can pay for instead of an employee to just pull t-shirts all day. It's not for like the 2 auto shop where you're just being like, it'll pull tees, hoodies, long sleeves, and you're not doing your tack perfect every time. So the machine fucking rips the shirt off the pallet. They're really cool. Like you can see them at like ISS and stuff like running. They're pretty awesome. But I always talk about this, and I think I've talked about it on here before, but I think Bruce posted it like on Printavo where some dude in like the 80s or whatever made his own like mechanical arm at the end of the dryer where it like grabbed the shirt off the dryer and like flipped it up and it like folded it in a pile. And it was all it did. It just grabs it and throws it in a pile, grabs it, throws it in a pile. I was like, that's amazing.
Are we getting close to robots that just do that? Like, is it within?
So. Definitely.
Yeah.
How many years?
Yeah.
1, 10
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But this is the bigger question is, have you guys ever had it to where your dryer shuts off without your knowledge and you print an entire order that falls into the bucket on top of themselves with wet ink?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're like, yes. All like cold dead eyes. We're like, yes.
Yep.
Very rare, but it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
I had my electronics of the dryer. We used to run, at my old shop, they have a old American, I don't know what it is, but the electronics of the front panel went out, which consisted of all the heat, but the belt still went. And so I couldn't even tell you how many. I mean, we were running thousands of shirts at that time, and I would say we probably sent through maybe 500 or 700 before somebody even noticed. Yeah. And just shuffling boxes. And then I was just like, I don't know where we wound up, how many got cured. And so we just threw them all through the dryer again, spot gunned what we could and reprinted what we had to.
Yeah. We had the same thing. It was an old American gas dryer. And the thing was such a piece of shit that like, it constantly was throwing alarms, but it was just like alarms that didn't matter, I guess, to us or whatever. So we like cut the wire to the alarm sound or like taped it over or something because we were sick of fucking hearing it go off all day long. And that's what it would do sometimes is like it would get like the sensor would trip that like there was a gust of wind through it or something and it just shut the gas off. And then the same thing, like it would be running, everything like sounds the same. You'd print a whole order and then the bucket would be full and you'd realize it, like the dryer's at like 100 degrees.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, cool. I'm glad we just printed all of those wet on top of each other.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to your story. You guys upgraded and your uncle had clients already ready for you.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I had to learn screen printing, like really to be.
So were you the only one doing it?
I was the only one doing it. I was the only one who knew anything about it. Like my uncle, he knew nothing about, he was all paper and 4-color process. That's all he knew. And so like for me coming in and going like, hey, we got to make this a 4-color spot and, you know, arguing with him, he's like, just run it in CMYK. And I'm like, that's not how it works, man. And, you know, just trying to explain, you know, to learn first and then explain to him, you know, this is why I need a 6-color press. Is because we need a base on these dark shirts and stuff like that. And, you know, just educating myself and then educating him to be able to add this thing to his business because he was all game for it, which was great. And then, you know, I was just eager to learn and he was paying me to learn. So it was really kind of a win-win because for me, I looked at it as almost like an art form. You know, I went to school. I was a graphic designer and that's actually what I got my degree in, but somehow wound up teaching theater and, you know, and then doing screen printing to me was like putting a puzzle together and making art with it. And I dug it and still do to this day. And just, you know, things have changed, you know, what I expect and how I want to do things. And so, yeah, I came in and, you know, we get these 1,000 shirt orders or, you know, 2,000 shirt orders for a university. And I'm just like, okay, I'll figure this out. And then ultimately it came to the point where I was searching Craigslist one day and just up the road from our shop out in Sacramento, there was a 1986 American Rototex automatic press for sale. And I was like, hey, that seems like it's in our budget. It was $3,000. And swooped it up and installed the thing. It was humongous. It was huge for a 6-color press. It was like an 18-foot diameter for a 6-color press. It was
that's like
huge.
What a Sportsman is.
And it was only 6 colors. It was still 6 colors, but we were just trying to automate. And the thing, it was solid, heavy, and it was the worst thing I could have ever learned to run an automatic on. But going back to, you know, figuring out
you learn the hard way again.
I learned the hard way.
And
you know,
and it was probably better than, you know, printing on a manual as far as like 1,000-piece run or 2,000 piece run.
It absolutely was. It was one of those presses that had that switch box kind of off to the side. So you had no control panel up front in front of you. It was like had a big old thick, you know, box that was off to the side, and I'd put a furniture dolly underneath it and just kind of put it near me. And so like if I'm trying to run it in like, you know, revolver mode, you know, I'm switching all these switches and double hitting on number 4 and, you know, and it had one speed on the print head and it had one angle on the squeegee and flood bar. It was a literal nightmare to print on, but I found a box of old test prints before I left, and I'm surprised we got away with what we got away with at that time. It was pretty incredible in a bad way. So after that, you know, a couple of years later, we ran that for a few years, I would say we probably ran a good 100,000 shirts on that press. And then I talked my uncle into, you know, going out to ISS for our first time, and we struck up a deal with Workhorse and got a pretty decent auto. And
what'd you end up with, a Freedom or a Sabre?
No, we actually went with the Cutlass. So that was the Javelin equivalent. And then the only difference was it was air print heads. And I was nervous about, spending that kind of money. So I kind of wanted to go, I guess for lack of better terms, I went the cheaper of the routes. And, but hey, when I left, we had almost 1 million impressions on that press, and it's still running. It's a decent press, but going back and looking at things, I probably would have done things a little bit differently, but live and you learn, and it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you've been there. Go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to say that I did that same thing with my first auto. Is I ordered it without auto squeegee and flood bar clamps, they actually make
the ones that twist on.
Yeah. And so, I was trying to, just like you said, I was on a budget, I was trying to save money, and I thought, well, I'd rather get more stations, and save money there. And I'll just deal with, clamping it on and stuff like that. Well, looking back though, it's such a luxury. Like you're so much faster, and those clamps are no fun. And then you always have to, sometimes you don't have enough, or where'd I put them? And so anyway, and it's messy.
And the occasional time it slips right out of your hand and busts your screen too. Had that happen too.
Yeah. But I mean, it was still like that press was, it changed my life. And so it was an automatic, and everything was great about it. It's just that when you look back, like now, of course, I don't even know if they make that, if that's even an option anymore. They just they come the way they do. But, and they come loaded, most of them, with almost all the features. And so the first brand new car I bought, I made the same mistake too. I was on a budget, and I didn't even buy air conditioning.
Yikes.
I was like, I'll just keep the windows down.
Yeah.
Huge.
Oh, sometimes it's a good thing though. It's kind of the same thing we were talking about auto reclaim. Like, do you need all the bells and whistles and more stuff to go wrong? Back to like you saying you bought your car. Like I bought a brand new Jeep. I don't know what, like 6 or 7 years ago now, brand new off the lot, had like 8 miles on it, and it was crank windows.
Oh yeah.
And the whole reason why I got that is because the upgrade package to have like electric everything was like $4,000 more or whatever. But I was like, honestly, that's just more shit to break. Like if I, my window thing doesn't work, it's like $2,000 to fix. If it's a crank window that doesn't work, it's like a $70 part. And it's like, I don't care. Like I'll just go up to the drive-thru and do this a couple times, and then I'm good. Like I don't need more stuff. So I don't know. For me, I just like things more simple. So sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's good to get stuff where you're just like, I don't need all this extra stuff because it's more stuff to break down. But yeah, I feel like if it's a manufacturing thing, like a press or something, you might want to look into what's more time saving.
Yeah,
but
that's where I'm at right now. So now that I'm not at the shop, so continuing the story is we've decided, me and my wife, we decided that we're going to continue screen printing because I absolutely love screen printing. And so we're investing all of our majority of our savings into opening up our own shop. And so that's ultimately kind of where I am at right now. I'm just trying to figure out, ultimately what's going to save me the most time right now if I spend a little bit more here, if I cut costs here, but ultimately this thing is going to better me for the future. Like Andy, he helped me out getting in contact with M&R. Was speaking with somebody, a sales rep, not M&R, but a sales rep selling M&R equipment, and just ghosted me. And then he got me in touch with somebody, and like I'm buying a Chili D for my manual, and
smart.
And because I know ultimately I'm going to upgrade my manual soon at some point. I just got to, get to that point. And that's one of the things that I didn't want to buy a flash and then have to maybe sell it or not sell it and then upgrade it again. And
I feel like I feel like a chili and a chili D, it's exactly one of those things. Like if it's available, because when I got our chilies for our Sportsman, there was no chili D. There just wasn't a thing. Right. But it's one of those things now where you can make the choice of like, do I buy a chili or a chili D? And it's like, I feel like that's 100% one of those things. Again, back where like you were saying the squeegee and flood bar clamps, it's like that's something you save your money and you get.
Right.
Like that one's a no-brainer just because of like the sensor. No, you're not burning anything. You're setting it exactly to what you want. It's one of those things like doing the research.
One of the greatest things about it is that if we need another chili D on our auto, we just roll it over, and so it's really versatile. It's not just for the manual, you know what I mean? It's for both.
Right. So. And for the people that don't know, a chili is just the flash. And then there's a chili D model that has the temperature sensor in the middle that tells it when to kick on and off. If, you're doing tri-blends or whatever, you can say, don't go above this temperature, and it shuts off when it gets to that temperature. So you're not like scorching things, or you can set it for your gel temp of whatever ink you're using and it'll shut off when it's supposed to. So you're not over flashing and stuff like that. Another
cool part about having the chili D on our manual is that it has that prox so that when the palette moves underneath it, that's when it turns on, and so you can have it set to turn on and then turn off at, let's say 250 or something like that. And you never are, there's not like a foot pedal or anything like that, or it's not always on, you know what I mean? You just, it just recognize it when it comes over. So it's a great choice for a manual. I know it's an expensive choice for a manual, but if you're getting an auto, if you're getting auto in the near future, then it's definitely the right choice.
I feel like even on the manual, it rules. You know what I mean? It turns on and off like it's supposed to.
Right.
Same thing that's the biggest thing a lot of people have with a regular flash on a manual is that you have to hurry up and move the palette out of the way so you don't just leave it there too long and burn something. It's always nice to just have a quartz flash that turns on and off.
Yeah, especially if like you're printing hoodies or something and you put it under an IR flash and it just starts to smoke.
How many people post pictures of their palette burned and their rubber all curled up and I almost burnt the shop down today. It's like,
I thought you didn't use rubber on your palettes, Dylan.
Shut up.
I heard you have, aren't they just?
They're made of wood.
Wood. Yeah.
Yeah.
My first press had Formica palettes, like, have you ever seen those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It wasn't good.
We used to make, back when we first started, we used to make different size palettes. We would go down to Lowe's or whatever and buy a 4x8 sheet of, what is it, MDF or whatever. It's not MDF. The one with like the white that they make the actual pallets out of. Is it? I don't know what it's called. But anyway, we would buy like a 4x8 sheet and someone would be like, I want to do a, 16 by 24 inch print on like a 2XL tall and they want to do a whole order. I'd be like, all right, cool. I would just like literally cut that size palette, sand the edges, and then screw the like Riley Hopkins bracket to the bottom and put it on the press. And it's funny, there's a video floating around online of us back in that shop printing that size print, like this massive print on there. And it was a 4-color single station, but because the palette was so big, it was off balance. Like when you actually put pressure down to print, it would lift the whole press off the ground. So Brian's whole job that entire day when we were printing that job was to stand on the back side of the press to hold it down while he printed. So stuff that you got to do to get through, but you can do it.
So you're building a space out currently, right? It's not finished yet.
Correct. Yes. So it's a warehouse, like a business building kind of thing. It's kind of bare bones, but it's got a front office and 1,200 square feet of, workable space. And it's half a mile away from my house. And so it was kind of a no brainer. I'm just like, I guess I'm walking to work from here on out now. So,
hey, is it like a 20 by 60?
I'm going to tell you right now, I live a stone's throw from the shop and I drive every day.
Dylan, that's pitiful. That's pitiful.
When I ride the bike in the summertime, I literally can ride it in almost neutral the whole way here. I just roll down the hill, put it in first, and pull in.
Yeah, so it's about, I would say about 20 by 60. Yeah, so it's pretty long, and yeah. It's a good space though. Yeah.
So I want to know now, with your like years of experience from doing the hard road, now you have like a clean slate to be like, okay, I've got a brand new building that's literally being built that I'm going to go in. What are your go-tos, or what are your ideals for like layout, equipment, stuff that your wish list?
So really what I want to look into is being, I guess my downfall at the end of working at my other shop is I got so inundated with everything. I was color separator. I was the proofing person. I was cleaning screens, reclaiming screens, registering, mixing. I did everything. And it wasn't until about a year ago, I got an assistant. And so I was just so ran down with just the way everything was managed. And, I couldn't keep up with everything because it always seemed like we were behind, because we were kind of lack of better terms, we were kind of a contract shop, a one-person contract shop, because we would have brokers come in left and right, just dropping off apparel. I mean, I'd have pallets of apparel that I had no idea what it was. And so ultimately what I want is to have an organized, clean shop. I know, Dylan, you just redid your ink area. I mean, I had my mixing system on the ground, and I'm like, okay, there's yellow and there's scarlet, and it's just caked with, lint. And I guess taking more pride and time in being able to just remain focused on enjoying my space and it just not turning into another, place I don't necessarily enjoy being in, And I think that's ultimately how I'm trying to balance this whole thing out. Because the screen printing, I think, is going to be about 90% of our time. And then, about 10% of the other time will be spent doing design work as well. And so we ultimately, me and my wife, we just want to have a nice, clean, fun area that, and you guys have touched on this before, and I see it in your social media. You guys look like you have fun shops, and no offense to my uncle or anything, but his shop was, you clock in and you're working. I mean, and if you're laughing, you're not working, you know what I mean? And so it was one of those places where it didn't seem like, it seemed like a job. It didn't seem like a place that you could enjoy it, for very long. At the beginning it was, but that kind of all wore off, and, deadlines and all that stuff. So
yeah, I know it sounds cheesy to like talk about, I guess, but like it definitely works. It's hard to get your mind wrapped around that as an owner, but you can definitely see the benefits in it. It's kind of like that Google way, where like they have like everything there, that like ping pong tables, and they make you take certain hours of the day to just like do a fun activity with other workers to like brainstorm and talk about stuff. But it definitely works. Like if you make a really good, fun environment that's not forced, like I hate all these companies that like force company culture on people. It's like, I feel like if you just make something that's yours and that's, everybody likes anyway, it's you're having your own company culture or whatever. But like to just make a fun environment and give them the time to, they're doing work, but they're also like laughing or having fun or talking while they're doing stuff. Like everybody here definitely is guilty of that. Like getting together and talking about something for maybe 5-10 minutes where they should be doing something else, but they all go right back to it, and or they're working while they're doing it. And it just makes them more want to come to their job every day. And, there's less issues with HR. And a lot of times too, like they could be in a room, Brian will be in the art room and Randy will come in to get something approved. And then Sarah will walk in about something else. And then they'll end up talking about like 3 other jobs and how they're going to fix doing this one thing or how they're going to make this one thing work. And it's like, they're just brainstorming together and it's creative. Yeah. So I feel like it's good. I mean, nobody wants to come to that like hospital shop where it's just like, go to work in your station, shut up, get your shit done. Like, you just don't look forward to going to work every day. You see all those people posting those memes of like, can't wait to fucking get out of here. You know, I'd rather die than be here kind of thing.
I think it's a tough balance because like I don't micromanage. All right. But, and I let everybody be really autonomous, and most people are like, most people are really good at governing themselves, just like you said. So maybe there's times they're on their phone, or maybe they're goofing off, or maybe they're telling a story, and, you know, the story's going on, and like, we're not getting any work done. But it's important, I think, to let that go. And most people understand that there's work to be done too, and then get back to it. And you need those breaks. Like if you're just nonstop pedal to the metal, you walk in here and work, and then don't, shut up until you're done working and then leave. I mean, that's not a fun. No. Fun's probably the wrong word. That's not like a place you want to be, an environment you want to be in all day long. You know, it's,
you're almost expecting these people to put most of their time and energy into their lives, like all week at that job. They're spending most of their day at your place. Like, why wouldn't you try to make it homey and fun and inviting? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think breaks from the action make for a more productive even environment. You know, we don't have a ping pong table here. Fuck that. I'm not having them. I don't know what that would turn into or anything like that. But so I'm not going that far, but I would say that, come in and socialize too, have, I think it's important to have relationships or have coworkers to be able to have conversations and sometimes, I mean, they talk about their like personal stuff, and I think that's important. There's people that go to lunch together, They don't invite me ever, though.
That's like a big thing here is it's mostly personal talk when they're talking. I mean, they're talking about work stuff. My favorite thing to do is like, I'm usually within an earshot of almost all the things that happen in the office. Like if somebody's talking about something, 9 times out of 10, it starts to be about the job or approval. And then it turns into, oh, I saw this funny video last night of this guy, like shoving his head in his ass or whatever. Like it's always something horrible and grotesque. And then it'll go on for like 20 minutes. My favorite thing is letting it go on for 20 minutes and then yelling from my office how much that conversation cost me. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just paid, like $34 for you guys to have that conversation about that guy's ass. Like, you're welcome. Go back to work.
This is an interesting, this is kind of interesting because I'm coming from more of even though I was kind of like the production lead at that shop, I still had, the owner, the manager harping down on me, and so I'm coming at it from like an employee's perspective, going like exactly what you said. We've been here 6 days this week and, I'm on 55 hours for the work week, and I'm just, I'm burnt out, and I want to take 20 minutes to talk about this guy shoving his own head up his ass, because
right, as one should. Right, makes perfect sense.
But yeah, I mean, it is a balance, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So,
you ever have them tell that story when there's a customer at the counter?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
dude, we've had a bunch of good, embarrassing moments with customers coming in and we were doing something we shouldn't have been doing. One of my favorites, there's two that come to mind that are amazing to me. One is I had bought like a metal barrel from, I don't know, some manufacturing company locally where I was doing some side project with it, but I had it in the shop because I was going to put vinyl letters on the side of it. And Jordan at the time was my like secretary and she was doing my emails or whatever. And she was fucking around and shouldn't have been doing it, but she got in the barrel and was like joking around with Brian in his office because his office was like right next to where the barrel was or whatever. And she couldn't get out of the barrel. And like a customer walked in right at that time, and Brian bolts when a customer comes in because he doesn't want to have to talk to them, and left her in the barrel. So she like ducked down, and then when the customer came in, she like popped up a little bit, and all she said was, "I'm in a barrel." And it was just like, customer's like, what the hell is going on? And the other time, I think they were like blaring like Rammstein or something out in the shop, and it was like super loud. And I was out there being an ass, and I was like bent down, like doing the dance from like their videos where it's like punching their fist against their like knees or whatever. And this like customer that we have comes in, and he's like, I didn't know he was coming. He comes up behind me. He's like, "Oh, you got pretty good moves for a big guy." And I was just like, "Oh my God." It was like the worst, most embarrassing thing at the time. And I was just like, "Oh, this sucks so bad."
One time,
but yeah, we have stuff all the time though, where we're blaring music that's like super not PC.
That used to happen here, and we so the policy here is that you just have
headphones.
AirPods in, headphones. There's no blaring music, because it was, first of all, people don't want to hear other people's music a lot of times. Like hey, I don't want to listen to that. And I had a person that would come in and play. What was it? Talking Heads, which I like, but the same exact Talking Heads album every morning at like 8 a.m., like super loud. And so I had heard it 100 times. I'm like, we just can't do this anymore. And so we got headphones. But I remember one time there was this guy, or he still works here. His name's Brandon. He's a designer, and he whistles a lot. Everybody teases him like, "Hey, quit fucking whistling." They'll tell him that. And but that doesn't really annoy you. You just say it. Well, one time he was walking by the office. I said, "Hey, knock it off." And there was actually a fucking customer whistling, not Brandon.
Oh, you yelled at him for whistling.
And he walked by and he was just like, and I look up and I'm like, "Oh shit." I turned pure red. And it was the customer. I walked out there. I was like, "Man, I'm so sorry." And I told him the whole story. Like, I was just joking. Like, in fact, I like whistling. Trying to like save it.
That was that was it. Super like you go up to somebody that is blatantly obviously you don't like it. You're like, "Actually, I love whistling. If you could actually whistle some more for me real quick."
Double down
your whistling
on it.
is beautiful. Like it was
right.
And I told him the whole thing and it worked out. He was like, "Okay, whatever." It was like an older guy. I don't even know if he heard me at the end because he was like, "Okay, Sonny," or whatever.
Yeah.
Saved it.
Actually, I love your whistling. It sounds very good. If you could make me a recording, put it on a cassette for me, I'd love to listen to it in my car on the way to work.
Yeah. And by the way, your order's free. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, back to your shop. You're going to just try to make it super clean and organized, and which is the way it should be.
Clean and organized, and going back to poster printing too. I want to add that back in. And, that was one aspect of the printing that I wanted to do at my uncle's shop, was adding in the poster printing. And just, here in Northern California, there's like one decent poster printer up here for screen printing. And I've done it, I've done my 9-color art print that and I loved it, and I sold the crap out of them, and I'm just like, yeah, I'd do this for other people all day long, and and that's just another aspect that I want to add to the overall shop and what we can offer to people too. Going back to collecting those posters and then being able to print them for people too.
So, I guess I'm most curious. When we were talking about having you on the show is what exactly are you guys saying you do? Are you going to say you're a print shop? Are you just what do I want to say? Are you a shop that sells like limited edition pins and artwork, but you also screen print on the side?
Yeah. So as I was building the screen shop for my uncle, I did the enamel pens and, prints and apparel for myself. I kind of created my own brand to make myself my own client, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to say, "Hey, I need to print 100 shirts today. What's that going to run me?" To my uncle. I wanted to be my own client. And so I built that thing in the background, and that's been working well over the last 4 years for us. And, but my true love is printing, and printing for other people and helping people get, whether it's, hoodies, t-shirts, whatever it is. taken care of for people. But with the advent of us, making these pens and patches and all of this other stuff for ourselves, we're adding all of that into what we're going to offer. So like our main thing will be, screen printing for people. It's almost very similar to Mind's Eye. I know they offer a lot of the same. We want to be able to kind of service that all of that for a customer. And then, it might take away from what we're doing with our own stuff, but really what we see ourselves doing is just being a print shop who also, can throw in some enamel pens for you as well, or patches, what have you. And,
So I guess tell me about what you're doing right now with, like, if I go to Evergood's Instagram or whatever, you're doing limited edition runs of the enamels.
Yeah. So we do a lot of enamel pens that are based off of pop culture. Just something that we've always done, or always enjoyed doing for, 4 or 5 years now. So yeah, we sell, stuff based off of, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, or, whatever it is, just things that we enjoy doing or that we enjoy collecting. And that market has grown like crazy. Like it's an insane, pens are a big deal. It's an insane market. And, and we currently have our own clients who come to us because they're like, hey, your pens are amazing. I want you to make our pens for us too. And it's like, okay, and so we've been doing that in the background. So we created an offshoot of our brand Evergood merch. And it's called Evergood Supply. So it's the portion where we supply the customer those type of goods. So, I send all my invoices and emails through Evergood Supply if somebody needs something, and, just take care of it that way. But the Evergood merch is that's our fun thing that we get to do, and get to design and, and just put out a fun little Halloween shirt here and there, or, what have you. And then be able to kind of use that as almost like a business card, like, hey, we could do this for you. If you need some t-shirts, hit me up on Evergood Supply.
Well, that's kind of what brings me to, I guess, the main thing I wanted to talk about was kind of like what we try to do here. And it's funny, like I said, you have Josh's hoodie on, but me and Josh talk about this a lot, where I personally feel like for our shop, it's, I'm in it for the art, and I love screen printing. I love everything that comes along with it, and just making cool shit basically. So the goal for me is like, if I already have the resources to make cool shirts or whatever, why am I not making cool, like upstate? I know it's upstate merch shirts. We say like they're shop shirts or whatever, but we try to make a lot of like cool stuff, because for us, it's testing the waters with a lot of things. Like we could test something we don't normally get to test with customers because it's our own stuff. So it gives us a chance to try like different discharge inks or, different shirt types that we don't normally get with whatever. So for me, I feel like it's amazing marketing, because if you can give somebody a really rad shirt or hat or whatever, they're going to wear it all the time, and it's just going to spread your name and promote whatever else. But the cool side of it is when you order stuff that's not in your wheelhouse, like for you, it would be like the enamel pens or whatever. At some point you had to decide, like, I want to do enamel pens. So what I do on our side is the same thing. And I did it not that long ago. I'm nowhere near where you're at with like the enamel pens or whatever, but like, I'm trying to navigate of like, who's a good supplier, or what's the best kind? Do I do hard enamel or soft enamel, or do I do like this finish or, this size or whatever? But in reality, you're doing the legwork to figure out what's the best possible like supplier and all this stuff and whatever I just named for my customers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just blindly have a customer be like, I want enamel pins, and you know nothing about enamel pins, and you just randomly throw a dart at a dartboard and you're like, I'm going to order them from this guy. And then you look like an ass because your name's on it technically. Like you sold them that. So that's where I'm coming in here saying you should, for your shop, if you want to offer those things, order stuff for yourself, learn the hard way of like, don't do this, do this.
Yes.
And then when you get it figured out and ironed out for yourself and you make yourself look really good with those things, then offer it to that customer and be like, I can get you badass, like enamel pins or pint glasses or, you know, whatever it is you want to do, deck of playing cards or, you know, stuff that's cool promo items for customers. I feel like you're doing it right because you have this thing on the side where you're making like pop culture pins and shirts. And I think you did you made playing cards and stuff too, right?
No, actually that's a wholesale thing I'm doing, working with a company on. So
right. But even still, you're getting a connection to make those kind of things for customers.
Exactly.
So I feel like that grounds you in to be the in guy to go do that stuff too. Like I said, I would love to pick your brain and be like, all right, like what's the best possible type of enamel pin to go for? Or like I said, it could be anything, but you're doing long story short, you're doing the legwork to find out what's best. And then you're that guy to go to for those items.
And unconsciously, I think I figured out that was something that I wanted to be able to add to my screen print business without even knowing it. Doing it, you know, it just came naturally when people doing exactly what you said, you know, my stuff looked good and they didn't want to have to throw a dart at a board and test the water with somebody they didn't know.
Not only do you get the screen print customer, but then you get them to help them out, get these other things. And then they're not going to go anywhere else because where else are they going to go to get like cool screen prints and these pins and whatever else? And it's like, you can offer them the cool shit that they want that's in right now because you're doing it on your own.
Right.
I was going to ask, what's your guess on how much of your business is going to be screen printing versus pins and other things?
I would guess probably, if I have my way, I'd like my screen print to probably eat up about 75 to 80% of what I do versus the enamel pens and stuff like that. The good thing is when you're dealing with a lot of these manufacturers, they're overseas. So, you know, you can spend your day working on, you know, printing all day, call it a day at 5 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock, shoot off a couple emails, and then they're responding back to you within, you know, half hour or so. And then, you know, I've got pretty good relationships with a bunch of people over there, and, you know, I don't have to be up until 2 a.m, sending emails with these guys. You know, they respond pretty quickly to me, and which is nice because I could call it a night at 10 p.m. and then, you know, not have to be up until 2 and then back at work at, you know, 8 or 9, whatever it is.
Now, other than the language barrier and the time difference, what other difficulties have you come across with like manufacturing things that like you don't have a hand in other than like, here's my artwork?
Probably the biggest thing was finding somebody who you can trust working with. Just like if you were to contract out a job, you know, making sure you're going to get the thing back and it comes right. I had a pretty large cannabis client we were doing some work for, and it was I invoiced probably about $12,000 worth of enamel pens, and it all came back wrong. Like there was maybe one job that was right. And then they completely ghosted me. Like I was like, hey, I need you guys to fix these. They don't match the proof. Everything that could have went wrong. And they wouldn't respond to me. And it was somebody I had used before, but not had that strong relationship with. And ultimately from that learning experience, what we learned is have a core group of 1 or 2 people that you can reach out to. And then, you know,
so what do you do in that instance then? Like if somebody ghosts you, it's not like you're fucking going over there and getting them and being like, hey, fix this. Like, do you tell the client like, hey, anyway, I guess, do you tell the client in the beginning, like, hey, I don't personally make these, I order these overseas, but I have like a good relationship? Yeah.
And so that's exactly what happened. So the pens came in, they were wrong. They were really low, bad quality. I don't know if it was a rush job. I don't know the ins and outs, but I used this particular manufacturer a couple times and they did great work. And then this huge run that I trusted them with, they really screwed me over. And then I sent email after email. I got their phone number. I called them. I'm getting nothing but voicemails and messages that I can't understand. I'm sending them messages on Facebook, everything you could imagine to try and get somebody to answer me. And then finally I had to tuck my tail between my legs and whip out my credit card and go to a reputable manufacturer and just go, I need this done right. Can you help me on this price? And they wouldn't, because it wasn't their fault, but right. I had to make it right for the customer. So
now, did you tell the customer like, hey, I got these, they're not right. Like, you're with me. I'll get you.
Yeah. I said, I have the pens. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the pens. You take them, use them however you need, because of course it was an event type deal. And I said, I'm just going to replace them for you. I don't want this to look bad on me. I want you to be taken care of. Take these pens however you want to. If you just want to give them to your employees so you look good, whatever, just do that. I will have these replaced for you within, 4 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever it was. And I did. That other manufacturer came through, and ever since then, I haven't gone through anybody else. And
now, have you kept that customer, or do they not order?
Oh yeah, no, I still got that customer. Awesome. And it was just one of those things. You take care of the customer, and you cross your fingers that they come back. And luckily, this one did. And we've done a lot of work since. And that's kind of what I was banking on. It's like, take these pens as good faith that you're gonna come back knowing that I'm fixing this problem, and then we'll do more work together later.
And then you sent them fresh baked chocolate chip cookies, right?
Yep.
For messing.
And then they sent me some baked chocolate chip cookies, and It was a great day.
But with some extra stuff in it, right? Right.
Dylan, could you remind me? I can't remember. What did you send out as Christmas gifts this year?
Cookies.
Oh, that's right. Did you contact every customer you sent it to and asked them if they had any dietary restrictions before you sent them?
No, because I don't care.
Okay. Well, thanks for demonstrating my point.
Right.
So I've said this, I always say this, that if something goes wrong, fix it. And you did you did what we would do here for sure. And then, like Dylan said, maybe send them a dozen cookies too, to say, I'm sorry. Yeah. My other question though, to that was, that first round of pens that went wrong, that went sour on that order, how did you pay them? Was it also a credit card?
Yes. Yeah. So it was a credit card. So it was a credit card linked through my PayPal account. So I'm not sure. There probably could have been some leg I could have disputed some things on, but I just, at that time I was up until 3 a.m, just like sweating bullets. I was just like, I just want this thing off my plate and not to think about it anymore.
Right.
Like, I'm not a huge, I don't know everything when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I do know that that's why, one of the reasons why I really like PayPal is that they'll go to bat for you. To if you say, hey, these people didn't deliver the product and I paid them, they'll give you the money back, and then they'll go after them for it. So,
yeah. And I was still pretty green in my, I guess you could call it brokering at that time. And so I was just, scrambling to do everything right. And one of those things is hey, this is the cost I have to pay to learn. And it was a
it sucks to swallow it.
It does.
but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you actually touched on earlier. You just touched on one of my questions I was going to have for you about, making the branding for your own shop, because I noticed that you were starting to I'm seeing more, I should say, new designs come out for Upstate. And just seeing if that was more of a direction you were going to go, and, trying to make your print shop a brand, because that's actually something that we are going to start working with a agency here local in our town about actually branding our shop, and not just being a print of somebody who prints t-shirts,
I don't know if I necessarily want to see it become a brand, like a clothing line or anything, but I feel like it's one of those things that's overlooked is we're screen printers. Like, it's like a car dealership or whatever. Like you sell cars and their goal is to put like the fucking, the Maserati parked out front, like super shiny and nice, and be like, we can get you that car, or you know what I mean? For us, it's kind of like we want to print cool stuff, and I give it away most of the time. Like if you come in here, or if we know you, or if you're like, hey, I want a shirt, 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to send it to you, because for me, it's advertising. Like, I'm not thinking of it as like this mastermind advertising. Honestly, I'm thinking of it as we made a cool shirt and I want you to have it.
Right.
But for us, that's really all it is like, if I get a chance to work with a cool artist that I want to work with, because like I said, that's what I love to do. Then I'm going to have them make me something cool and make it an Upstate shirt, and then we'll print it and then give it away. And like I said, it's just one of those things, like people like to wear them and like to support it because they like our company and they like what we stand for and what we do. And it's just kind of like is whatever. So I don't know if I would ever make it like, like a brand, but realistically, not everything we print says like Upstate merch, screen printing or something on it. It's just like Upstate merch, and then it'll have like, there's a design we did of like our shop van with a Sasquatch in it and like aliens pulling it up or whatever. And it's like, we just did that because I like Sasquatch and aliens. Like it has nothing to do with screen printing at all. It's just kind of like, it's just fun for us to do.
Right.
I definitely need to do that more. We got away from it. We used to do it more often. Like we had a Christmas sweatshirt every year and things like that, for the shop, not just with our logo on it, but just something fun.
Something fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But every time it seems like we start to go down that road, well, let's design let's come up with a shirt or an idea. Then we get slammed, and then we always put it on the back burner for a minute. And then all of a sudden, it's past. Like we don't even want that shirt anymore.
Right.
So
that's what I said. Like we can post a really cool design that we had someone make for us on our Instagram or whatever. And then we'll get, like 5 or 6 customers that hit us up about that and be like, oh, I love this design. I actually have a company I would love for you to print shirts for. And it's like, it just snowballs. Like I said, you make cool shit in the niche that you want to be in. And then that niche comes to you and it's like, oh, I would love for you to make me something that looks like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the whole goal, is just to make cool shit so that you get cool shit coming back.
And that's what happened with us with our merchandise. We started hiring some artists just to make us some awesome t-shirts. And then some customers, same exact thing. They hired that exact artist and was like, hey, this guy, printed this artist's stuff. I'm going to send it to him, and we're just going to, I know the quality that's coming from this shop. It's going to be, and that's kind of what we're striving for, is trying to hit that certain niche of.
Well, like I said, perfect example is like your shirts. Like I was looking through your Instagram or whatever, and you had like all the Lord of the Rings shirts, and it's that style art or whatever. But like, think if you did that all the time. Right. So like, I always get asked from people like, how do you get such cool clients and artwork and like all this other stuff? And it's like, if you're constantly making that stuff and you're constantly showing that stuff off. So like, say for you, every other day you were posting a picture of like some, The Thing shirt or a Lord of the Rings or Alien or whatever. Eventually somebody that starting a movie themed clothing line or a comic book shop or a metal band that likes that kind of art, they're eventually going to find you and they're going to scroll through your page and they're going to be like, I love every single one of these. Like obviously if they can print those, they can print mine.
Right.
Yeah. I think we were talking about that a while back, about how Instagram is such a great portfolio too.
Right. That's what I said. If there's so many shops that are always like scrambling around trying to just get business, they're like, oh, I don't have a niche, but like I printed for a university, and then next is a plumber, and then next is, a diner. And then it's like, that's cool that you have that work, whatever, that's fine. But like, if you're like, it sucks because I never have cool stuff to do. It's like, just do more cool shit. Like Make your own if you're not getting it, and then show that off.
That's exactly what we did. You know, I was printing the plumber shirts. I was printing the roofer shirts. I was printing all of that. And then that's why I was just like, I want to become my own client. So I'm just like, I hired this person, you know, paid him $200, and I printed these awesome shirts, which, you know, I was able to sell and then, you know, get some clients from it. Exactly.
That's what I said. That's the thing is, like, I print a ton of that stuff too. Like, I print a ton of construction stuff, like a lot of construction stuff and a lot of this other thing, but I don't showcase that because I like having that stuff, but that's not the stuff that, like, I'm like, I want more and more of, you know what I mean? I'll post 2-3 shirts a week or whatever that we did that are cool, but we printed, like, you know, fucking 100 jobs that week or whatever. And I only showed off 3 because those are the 3 that I want more of. You know what I mean? Like, I'm posting the stuff that I want more to come back. I'm not like, hey, look at my portfolio. I did a design with a hand with a wrench on it that said, Joe will fix your fucking toilet. And then the next thing is this other thing. It's like, don't post the dude with the wrench if you don't want more wrench dude work. You know what I mean? Just like put out there what you want to come back.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know. That's my 2 cents. It might not be the right way, but that's what
very wise 2 cents, Dylan.
Right.
Very wise 2 cents. All right. Well, I have a question about your build out. What is your, sure. I'm not sure how far along you are yet, but
what is your square footage and how many employees do you have?
1,200 and
I don't want to hear it. I don't even care.
I wanted to know.
That's the asshole question.
I'm sure a lot of people do. Is like, what have you made any mistakes yet in that build out, and any advice you can offer?
So physically, we haven't been able to get in the building because they're wrapping up electrical right now. But at this point, we are in the purchasing phase of all of the equipment, and have I made any mistakes? I think the biggest mistake I think I made was jumping the gun on the equipment that I wanted versus maybe waiting a little bit or saving up a little bit more. We bought a used M&R Chameleon. It's a 10 color, and we wanted a higher color count because of the work that we want. But for the cost of this particular press, it was a $10,000 manual press used. And I almost kind of wish that I would have thought it through a little bit more and maybe just made the jump to an auto right off the bat. I think
that's going to be your only press. You're saying that's your main press as a Chameleon.
Yeah. For right now, because my thinking is I'm going to get in, I'm going to get settled. And I wanted to get into the building without any debt. So I'm using a big chunk. I'm using a big chunk of my savings to do everything. So my only expense is electricity and the lease on the building. And so I think that's, and I'm going back and forth because it's like, I didn't want to take on a press payment because, hey, what if this doesn't work out? You know, if this doesn't work out, then I could just, you know, use that as storage and do fulfillment of my own stuff out of this thing. And then screen printing, it was nice, but it just didn't work out, you know, rather than having a $50,000 payment on this press and then having to figure it out and stuff like that. So
more than that.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, as far as really like the part of this is, what if this doesn't work out? That's not an option. So you're going to make it work out. And
but
you know, one way or the other.
The cool thing is that I know just from having M&R stuff, like realistically, if you get that Chameleon in and you take good care of it and you replace parts on it that need replacing or whatever, you can easily sell that press in a year or two for what you paid for it. Yeah. And then take that money and put it toward an auto. So it's not like you bought a piece of shit and you're like, well, I'm just going to eat it.
Right.
Take care of it and just sell it again when you need it.
Right. That's, and that goes back to, you know, buying the Chili D that I'm getting. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if that doesn't work out, that particular flash, you know, it's a Chili D, somebody's going to buy it. You know, it's not going to be one of these cheapo used manual presses.
Good resale value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think ultimately, I think that would be my biggest thing that I question. I don't think it's a mistake or anything like that, because I think I'm looking at my past experiences with my uncle's shop of things that I would do differently. And I've had a decade of printing for somebody else and being paid by somebody else to print and to make those mistakes that I have yet to cross that hurdle yet, where I'm just kicking myself in the ass because I did something wrong. And it's a fortunate thing to not have happened yet. And I'm crossing my fingers, knocking on wood, whatever, that, I don't have to come across it that soon. But I know eventually something's going to happen, it inevitably does.
I was kind of referring to specifically the build out. Like we built a house a couple of years ago. And when you walk in, there's a bank of like 4 switches, and I still don't know what the fuck they do. Like I always get it wrong, like what's this switch do? I was like, why would anybody put 4 switches right here, all together? I needed to have them spread out.
You need a color code.
Got you.
Right. But I mean like with the build out, as you're building, and I guess you're not far enough along to know like, why did I put switches here? Why did I not put plumbing here or something like that? You know what I mean?
I think the biggest thing that I've run into with that, I don't want to say biggest thing, but like is where I positioned outlets and where I ran airlines to. Because I always move something and I'm like, man, I really wish there was a fucking airline over here, or I could easily get to. Like if you just ran lines down your building because it's so long, if you ran like 2 or one line down the middle, you could get air pretty much anywhere down that whole space. And it's not hard to do.
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that. Like you could move a press or want to have an airline at your reclaim or whatever. It'd just be nice to be like, oh shit, it's right here.
That's a great idea.
If you put it in like a terrible spot, it's like, well, what are you going to do now?
Right. No, that's
it's
a
just
great
stuff
idea.
like that.
Uh-huh. I mean, I know I have an appointment here pretty soon. Once the electrical's finished, I get to go in and just say, I literally asked the landlord, I said, how many outlets is too many? Because I want all of them. And I want them everywhere.
All the outlets.
All of them. So, and, he hasn't really answered me about that. So, going back to all of this, it's like, I don't have, like, I told him, like I said, I want you to run, because I think the building comes with 100 amps ready to go. And I said, what's it going to take just to add another 100 into it? Because I'm like, I know I'm going to need it eventually. I'll pay for it.
I feel like you should at least have 200.
Yeah, the Chili D alone is going to suck up like 40
it's like
or 50.
60.
Right. Yeah. And so, and luckily, had I come a little bit later, that probably would be my regret, and not adding more electrical when they were running it, because I think that ultimately saves me money, even though it's costing me a little bit more upfront. But
do you guys have a fire extinguisher in your car that you drive with?
No. Do you?
No, but I was driving home from work on Friday.
I wish you just ended it right there and you just said no. And then we went on to another question.
Next question. No, I was driving home from work on Friday, and on the side of the road, there's a pickup with a snowplow on the front of it, and it's engulfed in flames. And I was just,
and you wanted to save the day with it.
There was no fire engine or anything. I'm like, I just thought to myself, like, why don't some of us have fire extinguishers in our car? Or let's just say that was my car, or let's say my car engine catches on fire or whatever. Wouldn't it be cool just to be able to put it out? I mean, a small one, I'd probably make them, huh? But they were, because I thought that because literally the people were outside of that pickup and like 20 feet away or 30 feet away with their phone, recording it, watching their car burn like to a crisp and waiting for a fire engine because it was far away instead of putting it out. So I just wondered if you had a fire extinguisher.
See, I can't talk shit because I'm that guy who has I have like a hatchet, like stuff from my bug out bag, and a jump pack in the back of my car. And I always have I have like a separate pair of, like an extra pair of shoes and like a raincoat in the trunk of my car.
I have a flashlight and a blanket that came. Actually got it for free from Uline because I bought something and they're like, "Hey, choose your gift?" So I chose this nice blanket, and it's small, like this. It's all in packed up.
Yeah.
Just in case, because I don't want to be too chilly if car breaks down.
So, all right, it comes time to me for the most important question, or I guess what I want to hear the story. Because I was looking through your Instagram again and I came across the picture of you, and I had actually saw this a couple of years ago. Cause again, it's just a nerdy thing I'm into or whatever. It was the whole thing with Bryan Cranston dressing up as Bryan Cranston.
Oh,
and I saw that before, that he like did the Comic-Con dressed up as himself. And then when he got on the panel, he took it off. And then I saw that you had a picture taken with him with the mask on, but you didn't know it was him.
I didn't know. Yeah. So I used to go to San Diego Comic-Con all the time. Loved it. Just got a little too big for me. That was actually the last year I went, was that photo. And so we're walking the floor and it's just crammed. There's people everywhere. And this guy walks by us and he's got that realistic, real life looking mask. Like, it's not a Halloween mask. It's like a legit mask. And I was like, holy shit, there's Heisenberg. And so I stopped him. I'm like, hey, can I get a quick photo? And he's like, I could tell he was masking his voice. And I looked at the name on the badge and it was like Angela or something like that. And I was like, okay, whatever, cool. And so I took a cool photo, shook his hand, everything like that. And later we were watching, because we couldn't get into the panel to see the panel. So we were watching it somewhere on a TV, and he comes out, or that person comes out wearing that mask. And I'm like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, that better not fucking be him. And he rips it off and I'm like, motherfucker. It was him. And, it's just one of those things that, it happens to some people and you just never know, because that place is so massive. And there's so many people sweating on everybody, and it's a lot of fun. I'd be terrified if they'd be doing it right now, but luckily, they canceled it last year, and I doubt it'll be happening this year. But so,
have you ever thought about like eventually with like your thing, like vending at something like that?
Not really. I do a couple shows here and there in California, but that con life, that's not really what I'm into. Before you guys even came on here, I was sweating bullets getting ready for this, interview. I'm kind of terrible talking with people, and it shows when I'm at these events and I'm fumbling my words, and I just, somehow I was able to teach kids, I think, but talking to adults, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
How did they choose you, like with that theater class? Because did you have a background in that when you were in high school?
Yeah. So the guy who managed the theater facility, I did theater all throughout high school, and the school I went to, the theater department was like the football team. It was weird because everybody was into theater at the school I went to. And so everybody would come out and support the shows. And the guy who was like running the theater when I was in high school, he was at a different school when, I was looking for a job after college. And he was like, you should apply for this thing. You got your degree and everything like that. And so I did. And it just kind of turned into something that I didn't even know that, really existed. And so, I knew the stuff from high school, building the sets and doing the design and stuff like that. And then it just rolled into, hey, teach some kids if they'll listen. And so it was fun. It really was. Cool. But yeah.
So how do you, this is back to your other thing, but how do you pick what movies or what themes you're going to do for for the pins and the shirts and stuff?
I really wish I had an answer to that, because I don't. It's honestly, it's on the
obviously it's just shit you're into, because it's mostly Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. And then, when Halloween season comes around for me, I do a couple Halloween shirts, and because I'm big into slasher films, and I just have fun with that. And so I just, I see something that sells, and it sells well for me.
Right.
I built an audience that likes to follow that stuff and supports that side well enough. And
it's funny. I was going through and seeing what ones you did, and there was a lot of really cool ones in there. Did you ever end up making that Iron Giant one?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
Because that was one I was like, man, I really wish he still had that.
Yeah, I have one that is, it's not that particular shape that's on there, but I changed the shape and made it a little bit more affordable for some people. And it was weird. The art director from Iron Giant, it messaged me after I posted that, and he was like, "This looks amazing, great job." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And it's just stuff like that. That's really cool when you get that kind of validation from some people. When I'm kind of playing that line of, is somebody going to sue me or not?
So are you designing all those, or are you getting a designer to do? A
lot of them I am designing, and then I do commission some out too, because if I tried, I'm a terrible designer. But if I tried to manage my time to design each design, I'd have, 3 things done per quarter. And so I have to, with everything else that goes on, taking care of the other customers and stuff like that. I think I plan out a few commissions, and then, I sit on them for a month or 2, and then I release as needed.
Well, some of these pins you're doing are crazy detailed and elaborate.
Yeah.
That one, there was that one you're doing now or whatever is in the darkness behind someone. Is that one? Yeah. You said that one's 4.5 inches.
4.5 inches.
That's
tall,
massive. That's not a pin. That's a fucking badge.
And that's what I'm kind of branding it as a mini art piece. And so that whole series is going to be 4.5 inch tall pieces that make this huge little collage of pens when it's all said and done.
Now, what are you selling those for? Because that has to be expensive as shit to get made.
Yeah, those are.
I mean, I'm not gonna ask you to tell me what you're paying for them, but I'm just saying,
no, they're expensive to make too. No, they're I sell them for $55 a piece.
Okay, well, that makes sense then.
And so and they do well, and it funds the next thing, and just keep it rolling. Yeah,
that's crazy. Now, are those ones all just the soft enamel? You said something about them being screen printed.
Yeah, no. So, and that goes back to this whole thing. So 4 years ago, when enamel pens were just kind of starting to blow up, I'm not going to say that I'm the first to do it, but I will say that I'm one of the first ones to ask my manufacturer, how many colors can you screen print? And they were like, we'll screen print 20 colors if you want on these, 1.5 inch pieces. And it's I did one pen that had 9 colors of screen printing on it. And I mean, it turned out amazing, but
so now is that just like a flat pin and then a screen print on top of it and then they gloss over it?
Yeah. So it's real nice and smooth. And so they do all the color and the polishing and everything like that first, make it real nice and smooth. And then they take it to the screen printer. Literally it's some old lady, with a screen just
has to be an old lady.
Yep. Every video I've seen, it's some old lady. And her name's
Beth, and she's screen printing all your 12 color pins.
And it's crazy how tight the registration they can get on these things. I know what my tolerance is on my t-shirt press, and seeing them get this on a 1.5 inch enamel pen, it's insane. And they've come so far.
They just do them one at a time.
Yep.
They're not a whole row of.
Dude, I know nothing about this world, so whatever you say right now, you could be like, and then they shoot lasers at them. I'd be like, I always
imagined they would do 100 at a time or whatever.
So they make all of them. And so if you need a little screen print hit a highlight or whatever. So they make the 100, they polish them down, and then, so they make a little jig, and under their, hingeable screen, they just load up the ink and just one at a time. And then they set it on a plate, and then they bake it every color. So so
it's like poster printing.
Yeah, exactly. So that 9-color screen printed pen that I did, they had 900 so they had 900 swipes that they had to do, and they have to, they have to cure after every color. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's wild. It really is.
That's insane. Well, Andy, I'm going to let you ask him, because apparently it's a dig.
Oh, yeah. Do you have any shop hacks for us? Is that right? Did I get it right?
Yeah, actually I do.
You're supposed to say you have questions for us. Okay.
Oh, that's what the dig is. I think Tony got it wrong, actually.
Yeah, Tony said it was a dig, but I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, we have two things we like to hear about: shop hacks and then questions.
If you have any questions for us.
Sure. Yeah. So I know both of you guys are CTS users for your screen shop. So this is kind of like, this is what I had to do.
The answer is yes.
Okay. So this is what we had to do at our shop, not having a tri-lock of any sort, or not having any type of like pre-registration, anything, because we were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, figuring it out as we went. And so I came up with this idea, this concept of, I made our platen in Adobe Illustrator. And so everything I did, I'd load my art that I was going to separate, and I'd load it right where my proof said it was going to go, 3 inches down. And then I separate it all in the program. And then on that same file, the file itself has a center registration mark and a side registration mark. So you get your horizontal registration, the bottom registration mark to create the center. That bottom registration mark can move anywhere you need it to go, because art can be bigger or smaller, whatever. So that particular, I called it my pre-registration template. So that template, I separated on. And so when I printed out that blank template, and I built myself a light table that I just sprayed heat, adhered it to the light table. And because we used 2331 screens, I made a jig where literally you could only put it in straight to the 21-inch or 23-inch side, and it fits snug right in this thing.
Right.
So the registration marks, those two top registration marks, always landed in the same spot regardless. So they were an inch from the top of the platen. I made a screen and screen printed those registration marks on my platens on the press. So when I go and I burn my screens, they all have those same two registration marks. So when I put each color into the print head, I just table up and I'm registering to those printed registration marks. It made a world of difference. I know it might sound convoluted and might be extra steps, and there's probably a better way. I'm sure there is. But not having spent that money on a tri-lock or anything like that, that was our workaround. And it worked so well for us because we wound up not needing to micro much. And you get your system down on how to do it, and you do it right. And it totally was a nice workaround to not have to spend $2,000 or whatever.
It makes total sense to do that. Like you can do that, and that's super smart the way that you did that. It's just realistically, you just did a printed version of the tri-lock. Like,
yeah,
as long as you're keeping those points of contact the same between your film and your exposure and your press, then that's really what the tri-lock is doing. The tri-lock is going to be more precise and it's going to be faster. Yeah, for sure. But you're pretty much doing that. It just depends. Like, if you want to get to that next level of speed, really. And
I think the tri-lock, I think where the speed comes in with the tri-lock is even with your system, you still have to look through the screen to line each one up to the palette, right?
Absolutely.
So with the tri-lock, you're just pulling it to the corner and locking it in.
You never look, right? So, I mean, but your system was better than the system we had pre-Trilock. So I wish we would have talked a few years ago. But now
before we had the tri, well, we were using the Trilock with film before we had a CTS. You could definitely do that. But before we were doing that, we were just doing the old, like line your registration marks up manually thing.
Yeah.
But we used the Trilock before we had CTS for years. And then for us, when we had the Trilock on the auto without a CTS, it was a game changer. When we got it, we were like, holy shit, we can set jobs up so much faster. It could never get better than this, whatever. And then you're looking at it and people talk to you about it and you're like, yeah, I can, register a job in minutes versus hours, what I was doing before. But you were still microing things here and there because it was human error and people were moving things with their hands on film and everything else. Right. And the carrier sheets and whatever else you were doing. But as soon as we went to CTS, it was like, why the fuck didn't we do this like 4 years ago? Like it went from being like really, really good to like fucking really, really good. You know what I mean? Like, me and Andy have had this discussion. Like we don't even put registration marks on the screens anymore. Like nothing's on the screen but the artwork and like the invoice number and like, what Pantone it is. And then we tape off one piece of tape and then we Trilock it and go. So it's just, that's the step is like I said, you don't have to do that, but if you want to get more efficient, these are the things that you buy to make things faster.
But to his point, like when I was out of my garage, even I had my own system of how to burn and reg screens. And I was incredibly fast at regging screens without a Trilock, just because I had done it. Once you have your system and you've done it 1,000 times, you're pretty quick, but, not as quick as the Trilock, but pretty quick.
Right. Yeah. And we got a Trilock on the way too. So
beautiful.
Nice. Way to go.
Yep.
Next question.
This may be old news. It was new news to me, but for, those who don't know, printing zipper hoodies, you always have those runs of left chest pullover hoodies. And then you have a couple, that you have to run with a zipper. I don't know where I learned it from. Don't know who I saw it from, but using a sleeve platen to do that, making a extra setup just for the left chest. Do you guys ever do that?
I think we've had to do that in a pinch before, but we don't do that normally.
Gotcha.
We just use like if you're just doing a left chest on the zipper hoodie, we have squeegees that have a notch cut out of the middle.
The notch in there. Yeah.
So it's just clearing the zipper all together. And then if you were doing actual zipper hoodies, you can put neoprene on the pallet and it drops the zipper down in when you print over top of it.
Are you talking about auto printing or manual?
On auto. Yeah. When we first started, we did the notch method and ruined enough screens that, it just
from actually hitting the zipper.
Yeah. Whether it was, the press staying tabled up as it flooded, and that flood bar just, going right over the zipper.
It's the flood bar that always gets you.
Yeah. And so I was just like, I need to avoid this at all costs. And so for my workaround was just making a real quick setup, because most of the time it's 1 or 2 colors on the left chest.
Yeah. And we just make sure that when we're doing, even with the cutout, we just make sure when we're doing hoodies with a zipper, we'll raise the flood bar enough to where it's just kind of like doing a fat pass of flooding rather than a little bit closer, just so it doesn't, nick the zipper and ruin your screen.
Yeah.
But we did that like when we first got the hothead. I think we had it like a week and he hotheaded because I went out and made the executive decision rule that we were going to hothead every hoodie from here on until the end of time. And very first fucking week, there were zipper hoodies and they just didn't think about it and they hotheaded it. And the hothead like ripped you can see a zipper in the Teflon. So I just had to replace the Teflon. But again, it's just, when we're printing on the auto, we just use notch squeegees. But yeah, I've done that. What you're saying, like use a sleeve palette to do that. But I don't remember why, but I think it was just something where it was easier to do it that way for some reason. Yeah. But I mean, it works, whatever works. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the last thing, last hack that I always have is every time I retape my platens, it's inevitable. I retape my platens because I don't cut my pallet tape straight to the edge of the platen. I actually roll mine under, kind of tuck it all nice and neat. But it's inevitable. Every time I retape, I get a hoodie order. And so, because hoodies are, they leave all that fuzz, what I'll do is I'll just throw a quick, second piece of tape on there to ruin the platen. So I don't have to, after I run the hoodies, retape again. So I'll throw a second piece of tape on there. So when the hoodies are done, you just rip that right off of there, because we didn't have a second set of platens specifically for hoodies, which I just learned, a couple of weeks ago. And I'm just like, that makes total sense.
Yeah. Not everybody can afford, 14 more pallets or whatever it is. I mean,
right.
And also it does take time to switch over. If you've just got one, a couple of hoodie orders in the mix instead of,
right.
That's our struggle now, is because Dylan, we bought the extra set of pallets, because I thought it was a great idea too, that Dylan suggested. And it seems like the guys won't want to switch pallets unless it's like, hey, we're going to print a lot of hoodies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just because of the time it takes. And so we end up, ruining a bunch of pallet tape. And the pallets
thing though too is that you're not using water-based adhesive on your pallets, right? You're using that
we use
roll tack
both.
or whatever.
Yeah. We use
I'm just saying if they were using water-based adhesive and then they did hoodies, they're not going to want to ruin the water-based pallets. They're going to want to switch them out. And if you're doing a job that's like 100 tees and 4 hoodies, you can just change out 4 pallets. You don't have to change out the whole round.
Right.
But I mean, for us, that's been the best thing. Like that to us, that was the go-to. I mean, everybody has their own method or whatever they want to do. But for us, it was a no-brainer to be like, these pallets are just for tees and long sleeves and tee material. And these are just for fleece, because on tees and that we use water-based, and on hoodies we use web spray. So don't mix them up. So that's the reason why we should.
Can we call Gildan and Bella and Independent and tell them not to make their hoodies like that anymore?
Not make hoodies at all.
Yeah, we could
just make all their hoodies like those beach hoodies that are tee material.
Yeah, I would just say, hey, can you make the hoodies just the inside of them like a t-shirt for us printers? What are you guys thinking?
Obviously, yeah. Help us out. What the hell?
Right. I mean, they make DTG hoodies. So where's the screen printed hoodies? Come on.
Yeah, come on. Did you have any questions for us?
Yeah. So you may have touched on this, maybe not. Have you guys ever had to fire a customer either before a job or during a job?
I've never had to fire anyone in the middle of a job.
Okay.
I've had to fire a customer before we printed a job. And where was this we were talking about? Was it on Clubhouse or something where we were talking about?
Yeah, just last week.
Right, we were talking about firing customers.
Campus Inc. was...
they were talking like they fire customers left and right. Like I've literally only fired... I've only fired like 4 customers in our existence. Like maybe 4. It might even be like 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like the guy we were dealing with was just a huge dick. And it was like, I don't have to fucking work with you. Like, I don't have to print your shit. Like, if you want to be like an asshole too, usually what happens is we're doing everything right or whatever. And the customer, something happened to him in his own life where something turned into an emergency and he just all of a sudden is a dickhead to Sarah or whoever picks up the phone. I won't deal with that shit. Like if you're going to be a dickhead to them, fuck you. Like we don't have to work with you. Go somewhere else. Like I'll give you a refund or we won't take your money at all or whatever. Like I said, the last time that happened, we didn't fire the customer. They just didn't work with us or whatever. And it was funny because we were talking about this on Tony's podcast where that customer, we turned him down because of whatever his stipulations or something. I don't even remember the circumstances. But then he ended up just right after that immediately called all of my employees skinheads. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, no, we're not working with you. Like, sorry. We used to have one that the guy was just a huge dick. Like he gave us a lot of money and he was a decent customer when it came to like size and like whatever they were doing, and it was good. But I feel like he had that over us. Like he felt like he had that over us where like, you're never going to get rid of me because I give you X amount of dollars a year or whatever. And the funny thing is that guy was just such a dick about this order. He was like, I have to have it by this. And I don't care what other jobs you have going. Like, I'm your elite customer and like all this other stuff. And we were just like, nah, dude, like, we don't want to work with you anymore. Go somewhere else. His mood changed instantly. And he was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, take me back. And like, I was like, no, dude, we don't, like, it's done. Like, go somewhere else. And, that to me was just gratifying to be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So Andy, tell us about all the customers you fire.
Really, we haven't. I mean, there's maybe one or two, but yeah. It usually goes kind of like you said. I think if it doesn't work out or we're not a good fit, they usually don't come back. Or if they do come back, maybe we're like, man, we need to, like, when we quote this one or whatever, we should quote it high. It's a pricing thing, because I don't want to have any sort of, I want to avoid that confrontation where I say, we're not going to do work for you, because that's not going to be fun. That's going to be usually that's going to end.
No, I want to step back. I feel like there's levels to this. Like, I went to the extreme of like, it got to a tension situation where we had to be like, no, we don't want to work with you. Like, probably a couple times a week, we get a customer who emails us about a quote or something. And we know right off the bat, like, we're not the print house for you. Or, you know what I mean? They could send us something that's like an all over print, or something that definitely should be DTG. Like, it's like a fucking, like family portrait on like a white tee or something. And we always just let them, I don't want to say, we let them down, but like, we're just like, honestly, the best thing you could do for this is go to, we have a lot of buddies in the industry, and we're just like, oh, go here, or this guy will handle you. He's really good at DTG or, belt printing or whatever you're doing. We do that all the time because it's better to let them go then than it is to be like, all right, yeah, we'll do it. And then you try it knowing full well it's like red flag city. And then you end up with something you have to reorder or, pay for later. It's better for us to just be like, that's not in our wheelhouse. Like, we do that often, but that's not, I don't feel like that's firing a customer.
This will probably help you if you ever get like an asshole customer or a dick customer. Like, this is what I do.
Go to ShirtCon.
You just stole my fucking joke.
I knew where it was going.
I was going to tell you to send him to Dylan. All right.
Yeah, and then I'll send him to Andy.
You got my punchline. All right, whatever. So why have you had to fire a customer?
There've been instances where, it's kind of the same thing. Some of the brokers that we had worked with thought they owned us as printers because of the amount of work they brought in, or thought that how much work they brought in was, they were able to treat us a certain way. And we've had to let, people know that, hey, we're not gonna either do the work any longer for you. Or we've also gotten to the point where we priced ourselves out of it because we wanted them to go somewhere else. So I was just curious, if you guys had ever had that.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between a difficult customer and one that you have to fire, like Dylan was talking about. Like, it escalates. It eventually gets to that final.
No joke. While we're having this conversation, just checked I got an email notification, and it was get a quote form from our website. And it's somebody who wants one shirt. Desired apparel brand says doesn't matter. And then their uploaded mock-up is just a picture from Google that looks like it was on another shirt with watermarks on it. And it says, "I'm not a perfect wife, but my husband is." I'm going to be telling them to visit ShirtCon.
Yeah, send them our way. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions?
The last question I had, and this was pretty controversial in our shop.
It's not infected.
And
he does that to me all the time. Don't. It's like, get used to it.
It's my
I know.
dad.
Now all of a sudden, like you can't even think about what you were even trying to say.
Yeah. So I brought this up on one of the forums. I'm on the shirt board occasionally, and I post some questions there sometimes. But if you have an employee who is trying to make their own brand as well, do you let them print their own stuff?
Yes.
Well, what do you mean by that? Yes. You mean for free?
I let them use my equipment and ink, but they buy their shirts at cost. So I'll be like, just come in after hours and print some stuff using our stuff. But usually it's like a side project. It's not like they're trying to make a big business.
You lose your, I think he lost his audio.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're
great.
good. Dylan, you were saying your excellent story. What was it again?
I don't know. I totally forgot. Oh no. Yeah. They, I've had people that work here before that are like, they have a YouTube channel or they have a band, or usually it's a band or whatever. And they're like, is it cool if I print my own stuff here? And it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, you can print your own stuff here. Like, they're like, I'll help them on Broder or SNS or whatever, buy the blanks. And then if the blank is, for example, say $325 or whatever, I'll just say, all right, well, give me $350 a shirt and just print them after hours. Like at the end of the day, when you're done with all the jobs that need to be done for the day, just leave the dryer on, set up your job, print it, take it down, wash your own screen, whatever you're going to do. So nobody else has to do it for you. And then, whatever. I don't care.
That's generous. I mean, I think that works probably in most of the time, but what happens if it's like,
if it was something where they were obviously taking advantage and they're like printing jobs every week. That's
that's what I mean. Like, and so I think so for us, I wanted to be able to, and I think when we first started, it was like, sure, burn a screen, print some shirts, not a problem. But it came to a point where, I thought that we needed to price it somehow. And so I have two ways to do it. One, if it's a one-off like shirt for your grandma or whatever, because it's her 50th anniversary or whatever, your grandparents, then fine. We'll make that shirt in this pricing.
If somebody works for you and they have a 50-year-old grandmother.
50th wedding anniversary or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, like they... there could be a 50-year-old grandma for sure. That works. That happens.
I'm not doing the math on this, but all right, continue.
That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is I have two pricings. One, if you have like a one-off shirt as a gift, and another is if you have like a brand and you're trying to profit from. And so if it's a one-off shirt, it's basically free. There's just cost. And if you're printing for your brand and you're reselling these things, because I have somebody here that does a Pokemon thing and they resell, well, then we just give them contractor pricing. It's easy. Everybody's fair or treated fairly, like the same.
Makes total sense.
Otherwise,
but I'm saying the guys that I've had so far are making like merch for their band that they're not like a touring band. They're like, they make merch like twice a year, or, they make one thing once, or they're just like, can I order 50 shirts, leave them on the shelf? And when I think of something cool, I'll pull 10, 15 shirts and print them or whatever. I haven't run into somebody being like, I want to start a clothing brand and they're printing like once a week. Then I would be like, all right, let's do contract pricing or buy your own fucking press.
The reason why we ran into that problem was if you're a printer, well, then it's no problem. Go, set your job up and print your stuff, your brand. But what if you're a designer, or what if you're in customer service and, hey, I'm a customer service and I want my own brand. And then I want so-and-so to put it on the auto and print it. Well, I had to pay those guys they're not volunteering to stay after hours. In other words,
right. I've had that, but I just tell them like, hey, throw Randy $20 after work and he'll do them for you.
Well, I don't have a Randy.
Well, I'm just saying.
Maybe Randy can work here.
I don't want Randy to hear that because he might move.
I might.
Chad, cut that shit out.
I might message Randy a little later.
Randy's a fucking wanderer. He'll move.
Right,
like, so takes. Andy really likes my band and he offered me a job. See ya.
Yeah, I got a free studio here too. He can record his next album.
You'll get him steaks every week.
Quick takes. Best recent read. Or listen.
Pass on both.
That's fine. That's totally fine. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you didn't just make something up.
Well, I always throw this in if you're not a reader or a listener. We have this book club going right now, which I'm sure you know about.
Yeah.
And it's a good time to start to be a reader or a listener because it's kind of fun. You know, we read a book and then, or listen. I was skeptical when Andy first said that this book that we're doing right now with the Matthew McConaughey one, I thought it was just going to be this like, you know, inflated biography about his life or whatever, but like, it's pretty fucking awesome. Like it's just about like crazy shit he did in his life. That's like, I super relate to because I have like crazy parents and like crazy shit that happened to me my whole life. And all of his like ring home with me. And I was just like, this rules. It's literally just like passages like of a diary that he reads basically. And it's just like, I did this and, you know, I almost went to jail or, you know, whatever. It's pretty good. It's not like something that's just like, I'm sophisticated, blah. Right. I'm not trying to, I don't think this book club is to try and be sophisticated. I think it's that, you know.
No, I know. I'm just saying this book in particular.
Oh, him. Yeah. I think that we consume so much television, or I guess now maybe podcast or listen to our music, you know, like those are the things I used to do or I do a lot of, but I like the idea of reading a whole book, you know, just like, because it's a whole different pace. It's also a whole different way to like that you are internalizing things or thinking about things, you know? And so sometimes I noticed when I was reading this last one, I actually read this one and I'm listening to it. I read it first.
Dude, listening is by far, like, I know I fucking plug listening because I'm a piece of shit and I won't read a book, but like listening to this book in his fucking voice and his like tones and the way he fucking like hoots and hollers, like it's way better to listen to this than it would be to read.
That's why I'm doing both. But there's been times when I was reading it that I actually like set down the book and because he said something and I wanted to like remember it or I wanted to go. He mentioned one time a song that really meant something to him. And I was like, oh, I want to listen to this song, you know. And so like I think as you're reading a book or listening to it on Audible, that it's just a different way to process and learn. And so that's why I don't know. That's why I'm trying to. I know it's not like it's school because in school I always felt like, oh, we got assigned this book and I have to read it, you know, and I have to do a book report. And it was like, oh, I dreaded it. There's no book report with this. There's just you just read it. There's no required homework or anything besides just reading the book, and then we meet up and chat about it. And, you know,
and if you want to read this Matthew McConaughey book, you've got 2 days to finish it because we talk about it on Wednesday.
Yeah, yeah, and the Audible is only 6 hours, so you can fit it in.
What I can do.
Next question.
I have no more questions.
I got it. It's me.
It's Dylan, and
I'm fucking slacking.
Spacing.
I got to pull my phone up and find
I'll ask it. No,
I got it. What's your favorite pen? And when Andy wrote me this and I read it, I was thinking like your pin for your credit card, not your pin for your thing.
Personal.
So let me know what your favorite, you know, pin number is. Or the last 4 of your social.
Yeah.
A whole social. What do you want the last 4 for?
I'll make sure.
What's your first pet's name?
I'll email all of that to you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's easier that way. My favorite pen is probably probably one of my first pens I did. It was this Darth Vader helmet with a silhouette series in it. And that's really kind of what got me, had this small little R2D2 in it. And it was very minimal in its execution, but it was the thing that made me think that, hey, doing pens is actually kind of fun. I wound up selling probably close to, 1,500 of these things when I first started. And, it was just something so unexpected that, it just hit well with people. And I was just like, hey, and it's the first thing that helped us take off in this aspect of the business. So
that rules. Yeah. It's nice when one of the first ideas you have takes off and does really, really well. And you don't just have to shelf like a ton of the beginning things.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Andy.
Next question. I need to know, like, what was your first pet's name?
My first pet's name was Bo. He was just a mutt. He was probably 6 different dogs, and he was an alcoholic. He was the best dog ever. We used to have a spa in our old house that had a deck that, we'd just set our drinks on, and he would just come by and drink margaritas, drink beers. I mean, and then we'd go, where's that dog at? And then he'd be passed out. And then the next day, you could literally tell he was hungover. I mean, he was an awesome dog. The 90s were great. And
see, now that leads me into the next question that Andy wrote here on this list is, what's your porn name then? Because if your dog's name was Bo, and you got to have the street you grew up on.
So what is it? Is it Bo and
the street you grew up on?
So my porn name would be Bo Willow.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mine's Odie George. Andy, what's yours?
I moved too many times.
It's got to be the street you grew up, like the first street.
Buddy Spady.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I like it. It's a good question you wrote here, Andy.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's not easy.
You got those zingers.
I spent a lot of time on these.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any irrational fears?
Surprisingly enough, yes. So heights, I'm terrified of heights, and it's kind of weird because working in theaters, that have 30, 40 foot tall catwalks, I mean, they're solid, but I mean, even just talking about it right now, my palms are sweating. Just being up there carrying a, 35 pound, 40 pound light fixture up flights of stairs. I mean, theater is so dangerous, and, rigging, trying to pull lights up while you're bent over this 40-foot drop on a catwalk, and heights 100%, scissor lift. It doesn't matter. Cherry picker, it doesn't matter. I could be harnessed in, and I will forever be scared of heights.
I'm 100% with you on that. You ever see those videos of those dudes like fixing like wind turbines, or like sitting on those like steel I-beams, like making skyscrapers? It's like, fuck that. Those dudes have steel nuts for sure.
Old school guys just taking their lunch break, just sitting.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's insane.
Mm-hmm. No way. Did you skip a question, Andy?
I don't know. I just looked up and read one.
What would you say is the best lesson running your business has taught you?
I would say if I had to equate it back to printing, knowing my limitations and knowing when to ask for somebody else's help and not trying to do everything myself. And I'm talking in the terms of production. We have outsourced many things, and I've also been forced to print a lot of things that should have been outsourced. And I think there's a great balance that you can find as a shop, but I just think that, there's just some people who want to take on every job, regardless if you as the printer know, hey, this would be better printed with 8 colors rather than 5 that we're capable of printing on this 6-color press. Or, just knowing, hey, this has 8 locations, and like I know of a job that they're doing right now that 8 locations too many. It's 5 locations. So it's front, back, both sleeves, and on a hood that a shop is printing right now. And they literally are not set up to handle that kind of load. And it would have just been better for the shop, better for, I think, production if somebody else handled it for them and they kept the press spinning with other jobs that they're capable of doing faster and better. And just knowing the limitations, honestly, of how well the production schedule should flow, because, you know, that particular job, I think they're on their 9th day of trying to run this thing. And I don't even know if you can charge enough to have your press down that long.
It is smart though. Like, knowing your limitations goes back to what we were talking about. Just, you know, don't take the stuff that you're not equipped to do.
Right.
But yeah. Andy, you got the last one. It's your signature.
Yes. The one that everybody's waiting for. What is for dinner?
Tonight, tacos. I don't wait for Tuesday. Tacos come and
dude, all week long.
Yeah. So tonight are tacos, hands down. Just ground beef, cheese, sour cream, some hot sauce. That's it. It's all
perfect. Yeah.
Do you set up like a little assembly line that you just go along and
absolutely
everybody takes a plate up to?
Mm-hmm.
And I have those stainless steel trays that they're like dipped V's or whatever, so I could set the shells in so I don't make a mess.
Nice. When you put those on your plate or what?
Yeah, you put the stainless thing on your plate, and it's got like 3 V's for 3 different tacos. And then, because normally if you're making one, you'd have to hold it, and then you obviously don't want to make one at a time. That's not efficient.
Well,
so you make 3 at a time.
Whenever we make tacos, we always make, I would say, 2 sides. What is your favorite side, or do you not make sides? Is it just tacos?
I usually don't. I usually just eat like 10 tacos.
There's nothing wrong with that either, but
for me, it's instant pot Spanish rice.
Yeah,
just with tomato sauce and onion and garlic in it, and just done.
It sounds wonderful.
Does sound wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It does. That's what I want now. I want tacos.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I feel like I'm gonna make a 40-minute drive to Chipotle after I get off of this.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not kidding.
Well, you can just make a few minute drive to I can never remember the name of your store there.
Wegmans.
Go to Wegmans.
That's still 25 minutes.
Well, it's going to be better than Chipotle though. The homemade tacos.
Yeah, but then I got to drive a half hour there, drive a half hour back, and then make tacos. Or I can order Chipotle on the app, get there, grab it in a bag, go home, eat it immediately.
Well, you have a good point.
Yeah.
You can't argue with that.
Make sure to get a burrito bowl and then get the tortillas on the side. You get way more.
That's usually what I get. You read my mind. So. All right, Andy, what are you eating? Gourmet pizza.
Oh my gosh, it's just going to be so boring again, I'm just going.
Boiled hot dogs? Ew.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the protein and a little ketchup on it. Mm-hmm. Sugar-free ketchup.
That's gross.
Even better.
I don't like ketchup.
I know you don't eat condiments. That's why it doesn't surprise me that you just eat tacos. Nothing else.
Yeah. Dry ass tacos.
What are you having, Dylan?
I'm probably fucking driving to Chipotle.
You weren't kidding.
No.
Right.
No, I have no dinner plans. So I'm sure when I'm done with this, I'm going to make a phone call, and then that's going to be an agreement to order Chipotle and go get it.
Well, how many you were supposed to be drinking? Let me see that bottle of Gold Peak. What do you got? What do you got left? 89 ounces. Oh, that's no good.
I got halfway.
Yeah. They're not going to sponsor you now.
God damn it.
They
never going to get a sponsor.
Yeah. Well, maybe next week you're going to have to drink a lot more, Dylan, or pound. Yeah. Chug it, the whole thing right now. If they don't sponsor that, if you chug this whole thing, if they don't sponsor us after that, we're going to have to switch to another tea.
Lipton or something.
He's actually trying. He's coming close. He's not even drinking. Now he's just holding it there and acting like he's drinking.
If it just starts spilling out the sides and like onto his shirt, no, he's trying at that point.
This may take an hour. So do you want to talk about anything? Because he's just going to sit there like, not bad. And you got closer. Now they might consider it. All right. Well, hey, thanks for talking to us.
That guy who dies because he chugged a gallon of water.
Jeff, thanks for talking to us. And
dude, that's a lot of fucking tea.
Having us, guys.
Godspeed with that build out. If you have any questions, call me because I've done a few build outs over here.
Don't call me because I'm a dumb.
Dylan hasn't. He doesn't do that stuff. So
awesome. All right. Yep. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it, guys, and good to finally meet you guys too. So
hey, you too, man.
You too.
Have a good night.
All right, guys. Take care.
See ya. Dude, I seriously just chugged so much fucking iced tea.
You probably just chugged a solid 40 ounces, like a 40 ouncer right there. So if that was a beer,
no joke chugged a lot.
Yeah.
Like I feel kind of gross right now.
Yeah. No, don't say that.
I was going to finish it.
Shh, hold on. Stop. Replay that. Don't you feel great after that?
I feel amazing.
Yeah. Like you could go do what? What could you do after chugging that?
I could probably do a handstand without throwing up.
They don't want to ad campaign like, oh, chug 40 ounces of Gold Peak and you can do a handstand without throwing up.
Exactly.
No, just say you could do a handstand. Like that's all. So do that again.
If this shit makes my body do a handstand, I'm fucking drinking it.
So take 3. Just take 3. Dylan, how do you feel after that?
I feel like my big body can miraculously do a handstand.
Gold Peak.
The
easy way.
The easiest way for you to do a handstand when you're a big piece of shit.
The easiest way.
The easiest way.
Okay. I wish I was recording this because that was
you
fun.
Are.
Oh yeah.
You fucker.